Here we have a little story about a man. A man that is a man who wanders northerly into another man's life, albeit for a short bit. But what he does in that time is miraculous, as he is able to appear rather harmless and bring the other man to stab him despite what he may have done in any other similar situation. Hi, I'm Joshua Baumgartner, and this is my analysis of the Zoo Story. The theme of the Zoo Story is that people aren't afraid and even willing to manipulate others in order to achieve their own goals without regard for the consequences that those that they manipulated will have to face. Now let me go ahead and tell you how I stumbled upon such a concept. One of the most prominent excerpts in my eyes involves Jerry's first lines concerning the dog story, a story of how Jerry meets a dog that doesn't like him and tries to kill it. When Jerry says, "What I am going to tell you has something to do with how sometimes it's necessary to go a long distance out of the way in order to come back a short distance correctly," can be interpreted as his ideas on how to manipulate someone. There are a couple other quotes that point in this same direction as well, only furthering this idea. Keep in mind, this still isn't even the first bit of Jerry's actual story. Thus, once Peter chooses to listen to the story, Jerry proceeds to tell Peter of the actions he took in order to try and earn the dog's trust. The first significant act is repeatedly giving the dog hamburger to earn its trust. In the story, Jerry goes to the market every day in order to purchase the hamburger for the dog. He then gives the dog the meat and waits for it to finish eating to see the results of his endeavors. This represents the idea of leading another to a point where they believe there was someone who wants to help improve their situation. This correlates with Jerry's view on his interactions with Peter as well. Jerry makes a few offers to Peter to give him ideas of friendliness and the idea that he has no ulterior motives. For example, when Jerry first talks to Peter, Peter lets his guard down a little as he simply sees Jerry as someone who is confused or socially anxious and wants someone to talk to. This idea is further solidified when Jerry essentially says that he wants to learn how to interact with other beings at the end of his story about the dog. This is not the end of the story, however, as Jerry reveals that once he feels the dog's view of him will not change, no matter how much meat he gives the dog, he decides to kill it. He does this by buying the hamburger again, but poisoning the meat before giving it to the dog. This is representative of what Jerry is also doing when he is having this conversation with Peter. Their interactions are like the meat. Jerry continues to offer them to Peter, while Peter mostly listens to Jerry throughout the conversation. Then Peter is struck with the poison. Jerry confronts Peter and gives him the knife he had with him. This represents how manipulative people will eventually reveal their true intentions and take the trust they've built up to achieve the end goal they were after from the beginning, as they don't perceive the person asking as someone with malintent. It now reaches the final excerpts of the play that illustrate the idea of some people manipulating others to reach their end goal. The first of these is when the dog comes back after being poisoned. Jerry no longer has to worry about the dog trying to attack him, but the dog essentially acts like Jerry doesn't exist at this point, as it makes little to no gesture toward him at all. Jerry achieves his goal of gaining uninhibited passage to his home, but has harmed the dog in the process. This is a similar situation with Peter. Once Jerry provokes Peter enough, Peter picks up the knife and holds it pointing toward Jerry. However, they do not fight, but Jerry instead runs into the knife himself. In this process, Jerry of course achieves his own goal, but leaves Peter scarred as he is now left with the idea that he killed a man. This continues to emulate the idea that manipulative people do not care for the outcome or aftermath that other people have to face so long as they achieve their own goals. This ultimately speaks to the selfish nature of humanity, as most, if not all people, simply care for changing their own situations to their own liking.